Hey, it's Professor Dave. I want to tell you about Teddy Roosevelt.
He knows a lot about all kinds of stuff. Professor Dave explains.
Theodore Roosevelt was one of the most remarkable personalities ever to inhabit the White House. An irrepressible dynamo of a man. He was a cowboy, historian, New York City police commissioner, assistant secretary of the Navy, Spanish-American war hero, governor of New York, vice president, Nobel Prize winner, conservationist, explorer, and president of the United States. And yet his greatest achievement was the creation of Theodore Roosevelt. TR was truly a self-made man. Born a sickly asthmatic child, he willed himself to be strong by embracing a strenuous lifestyle. His debilitating asthma attacks had the effects of being smothered to death, terrifying Theodore and his parents, but he was energetic and mischievously inquisitive. His lifelong interest in zoology began at age 7 when he saw a dead seal at a local market. He obtained the seal's head and formed the Roosevelt Museum of Natural History. He learned the rudiments of taxidermy, preparing various animals for display. At age 9, he recorded his observation of insects in a paper entitled The Natural History of Insects. Hiking with his family in the Alps in 1869, Roosevelt was encouraged when he saw that he could keep up with his father. He discovered that physical exertion minimized his asthma and bolstered his spirits, so young Teddy began a heavy regime of exercise. After being manhandled by 2 older boys on a camping trip, he found a boxing coach to teach him to fight, and in this way he strengthened his body. He attended Harvard College, where he had a reputation for asking too many questions, and graduated cum laude in 1880. He then enrolled in law school at Columbia University, but dropped out after 1 semester due to boredom. Roosevelt was a lifelong bibliophile and drew inspiration from reading about the heroes of history. He later articulated the abiding influence of the courageous men he read about, including those in his family. I was nervous and timid, yet from reading of the people I admired, I felt a great admiration for men who were fearless and who could hold their own in the world, and I had a great desire to be like them. He integrated his exuberant personality, vast range of interests, and world-famous achievements into a cowboy persona, defined by robust masculinity. His first of many books, The Naval War of 1812, was published in 1882 when he was just 24, establishing his reputation as a learned historian, and it remains a standard study of the war to this day. After leaving law school, Roosevelt threw himself into the political arena, and he was elected to the New York State Assembly, where he made a name for himself battling corruption. He successfully nominated an African-American delegate, John R. Lynch, for the position of chairman of the 1884 GOP convention, but was disappointed when James G. Blaine was nominated as the party's candidate instead of a progressive. However, he was devastated when his beloved wife Alice and his mother tragically died on precisely the same day, February 14, 1884. In his diary, Roosevelt wrote a large X on the page and then simply, "The light has gone out of my life." He retired to his ranch in the Dakota Territories to become a cowboy, working for a brief time as a rancher. There he learned to ride Western style, rope and hunt, earning the respect of the authentic cowboys, men whom he said possess to a very high degree the stern, manly qualities that are invaluable to a nation. He reoriented and began writing about frontier life for national magazines and published 3 books, Hunting Trips of a Ranchman, Ranch Life and the Hunting Trail, and The Wilderness Hunter. Volunteering as a deputy sheriff, Roosevelt captured 3 outlaws who had stolen his boat, and he conveyed the thieves to Dickinson, North Dakota for trial. He successfully led efforts to organize ranchers to address the problems of overgrazing and other shared concerns, and coordinated efforts for the conservation of large game animals and their habitats. After a severe winter wiped out his herd of cattle, and with it over half of his $80,000 investment, Roosevelt returned to the East and ran unsuccessfully for mayor of New York City. When the new mayor of New York offered Roosevelt a position on the board of the New York City Police Commissioners, he accepted and quickly became president of the board. He radically reformed the NYPD, reputedly one of the most corrupt police departments in America. The NYPD's History Division states that Roosevelt was an iron-willed leader of unimpeachable honesty who brought a reforming zeal to the New York City Police Commission in 1895. Roosevelt implemented regular inspections of firearms and annual physical exams. He appointed 1,600 recruits based on their physical and mental qualifications, regardless of political affiliation, established meritorious service medals, and closed corrupt police hostelries. He also had telephones installed in station houses. In 1898, Roosevelt was made Assistant Secretary of the Navy under William McKinley, but resigned after 1 year to fight in the Spanish-American War. He served with the Rough Riders, an Army cavalry unit, where he gained national fame for his courage and his victory at the Battle of San Juan Hill in Cuba. Returning as a war hero, he was elected governor of New York in 1898. The state party leadership distrusted him, so Senator Thomas Platt took the lead in moving him to the prestigious but powerless role of vice president. In the election of 1900, Roosevelt campaigned vigorously all across the country, helping McKinley's re-election to a landslide victory based on a platform of peace, prosperity, and conservatism. Following the assassination of President McKinley in September 1901, Roosevelt succeeded to the office at age 42, becoming the youngest United States president in history. Leading his party and country into the progressive era, he championed his square deal domestic policies, promising the average citizen fairness, regulation of railroads, and pure food and drugs. He also promised to continue trust busting, the practice of preventing monopolies and limiting corporate power amassed through commerce restriction agreements. He also made conservation a top priority, establishing a multitude of new national parks, forests, and monuments intended to preserve the nation's natural resources. Roosevelt was an ardent imperialist. He vigorously defended the permanent acquisition of the Philippines in the 1900 election campaign, but after the rebellion ended in 1901, he largely lost interest in the Philippines and Asian expansion. Instead, he turned his imperialist ambitions towards Latin America. This included his pet project, the Panama Canal. A canal traversing Central America was greatly desired for shipping, and there were two possible routes proposed, one through Nicaragua and the other through Panama, which at the time was still a rebellious district within Colombia. Roosevelt convinced Congress to approve the Panamanian option, and a treaty was approved, only to be rejected by the Colombian government. When the Panamanians learned of this, a rebellion followed, supported by Roosevelt, and it succeeded. A treaty with the new Panama government for construction of the canal was reached in 1903, and the canal would be completed in 1913. Following the U.S. victory in the Spanish-American War, Teddy viewed the nation as an emerging world power. He greatly expanded the United States Navy and sent a portion of the Navy, dubbed the Great White Fleet, on a world tour to project U.S. naval power around the globe. Building on McKinley's effective use of the press, Roosevelt turned the White House into the center of news, providing ample interviews and photo opportunities. After noticing the reporters huddled outside the White House in the rain one day, he gave them their own room inside, effectively inventing the presidential press briefing. The grateful press, with unprecedented access to the White House, rewarded Roosevelt with substantial coverage. Roosevelt was also the first president to issue over 1,000 executive orders. The first 25 presidents collectively issued a total of 1,262 executive orders. Roosevelt alone issued 1,081, indicative of a trend toward greater reliance on executive orders that lasted through the Carter administration. Elected in 1904 to a full term, Roosevelt continued to promote progressive policies, but much of his effort was blocked by Congress. Roosevelt successfully groomed his close friend, William Howard Taft, to succeed him in the presidency. After leaving office, Roosevelt went on safari in Africa and toured around Europe. Returning to the U.S., he became frustrated with Taft's performance, and TR tried but failed to win the presidential nomination in 1912. Roosevelt founded his own party, the Progressive Bull Moose Party, and called for wide-ranging progressive reforms. The split among Republicans enabled the Democrats to win both the White House and a majority in the Congress in 1912. Republicans aligned with Taft would control the Republican Party for decades. Frustrated at home, Roosevelt led a 2-year expedition in the Amazon basin, nearly dying of tropical disease. During World War I, he opposed President Woodrow Wilson for keeping the U.S. out of the war against Germany and offered his military services, which were never summoned. Although planning to run again for president in 1920, Roosevelt suffered deteriorating health and died in early 1919. Teddy Roosevelt's remarkable energy, ambition, drive, and whirling dervish-like personality made him a legend in his own time. As Mark Twain, who was not an admirer, said of him, "Mr. Roosevelt is the Tom Sawyer of the political world of the 20th century, always showing off, always hunting for a chance to show off. In his frenzied imagination, the great republic is a vast Barnum circus, with him for a clown and the whole world for audience. He would go to Halifax for half a chance to show off, and he would go to hell for a whole one." While campaigning in 1912, he was shot in an assassination attempt, but suffering only a flesh wound, he pulled the blood-stained speech from his breast pocket and declared, "You see, it takes more than one bullet to kill a bull moose." To uproarious applause, he continued delivering his speech for another 70 minutes. Roosevelt is consistently ranked as one of the greatest U.S. presidents, and his face adorns Mount Rushmore alongside Washington, Jefferson, and Lincoln. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to my channel for more tutorials. Support me on Patreon so I can keep making content. And as always, feel free to email me, ProfessorDaveExplains@gmail.com.